everyone for the opportunity to be here and to share a little bit about responsible AI. I think speakers prior to myself have also mentioned the importance of thinking about innovation, especially in this time of crisis. And while we look at the opportunities and benefits of AI, the topic that I wanted to really bring to the forefront of discussion and your thought today is around the risks as well, and how we can mitigate the risks that AI brings through the use of responsible AI. So I will go ahead and share my screen if it is not yet presenting. It should be coming up in a second. And as Bhavana mentioned, really today's short time period, we'll try to cover three things. The first is really the importance of responsible AI. Why is this important? Why is this the topic of our time? The second piece is we'll delve a little bit into what the principles are. And last piece, what we're all interested in is principles are great, values are great, but how do we make that real in our organizations? So I'd just love to give you a snippet of the learnings we've had at Microsoft as we try to implement this within our own organization as well. So just getting right into it, why responsible AI? And when you think about technological advances over the many years, many decades, and automation that's happened well before AI was introduced, what's so different about AI that we need to be having this conversation? So on the illustration here, you see really the pace of innovation is the first factor, all the way from us achieving object recognition, human parity in 2016. We've just raced through all the way through to speech recognition, reading, translation, and now general language understanding in 2019. And this pace was really enabled by a couple of different factors. So the first piece is the explosion, right? The proliferation of data that's available to us. Another factor is really the sophistication, the advancements on how we make sense of this data, the ability to draw systems of intelligence, especially machine learning, data analytics, data mining. The last piece that's powering the first two is the capability of the cloud. So with the cloud, all the data that's available to us and the ability to make sense, now we can access at extreme speeds, at hyperscale, and that is really what creates the need for us to have a specific conversation around the ethics and responsibility around AI. The second factor on AI versus other types of automation technologies is really the proximity to human intelligence. If you look at the items that we're showing, the cognitive services that we're showing on the slide here, these are really very close to how we as human beings perceive the world, how we sense the world, how we see, how we hear, those things that are around us. And fundamentally, when you combine the pace of innovation as well as the proximity of human intelligence, what happens is what was previously only open to human beings, the decisions, the things we could do, things that were only available to human beings in the past, now machines are and will be increasingly able to do. So what decisions do we want these AI technologies to be making? I don't really need to go into much depth around the opportunities. I think we've got plenty of amazing talk tracks today around the sheer opportunities we have with AI. But these industries that really fire the economy, healthcare, retail, financial services, manufacturing, each of them bring very specific benefits and opportunities with AI. If you think about the ability to now scale very specialized skill sets through the use of AI, previously only limited doctors could do, the benefit that could bring to humankind and global health. If you think about retail and the ability to really add utility to consumers by giving them exactly what they want, that adds value not just to me as a consumer, but also the organization that's able to sell things better, more efficiently. Financial services, I think one of the key pieces of value that AI brings is the ability to track potential fraud cases, detect fraud and mitigate risks. And last of all, for manufacturing, really the ability to remove the very labor-intensive, rote, repetitive tasks in the process, and also get real-time data in order to have predictive maintenance on some of our equipment-heavy manufacturing processes. All of these are opportunities that we have with AI. So opportunities are clear, that is all great, but when you really look at the leaders that are considering adoption of AI into their industries, these are some of their top concerns. Data security, privacy, transparency. On the right-hand side, you've got here data quality, also algorithms, even how we can explain the algorithms as well as the selection. And these concerns are really no wonder we have these concerns. If you look at some of the debate that's going on around the world, you see on the left-hand side here enumerating a lot of different hot topics around the potential risks to AI. I will only go into maybe one or two of them. The first at the top is facial recognition. The picture on the top left-hand side here, Chinese officials, law enforcement officials using what you call AI glasses to use facial recognition to potentially identify risks to society. Definitely a trade-off between individual right to privacy and the importance of national or regional security. You've also got on the other side of the globe, there is a picture of former President Barack Obama, and this is actually what we call a deep fake. So a sophisticated audio and visual technology that creates this pretense of someone saying or doing something that they actually didn't do. So you can imagine all the risks to that, especially with our high-profile leaders. And on the bottom left here, if you type in CEO into any of your search engine of choice, typically the return that you get looks like this. So it is typically a middle-aged male in gender, oftentimes a white man. And it goes to show the mitigations we need to make on fairness around over or underrepresentation for certain societal roles. So that is all really towards why this topic is so important. The next part around, so what are the principles that we need to uphold in order for us to create a world where AI can really be used for good and not for harm? And these are the 6 principles that Microsoft has put forward and committed to uphold in our design, development, as well as deployment of the AI technology. These words are not unique to us. I'm sure you've seen some version of this. What I intend to do is really go through one by one with a couple of examples to make this very tangible for us. So the first is fairness. And on fairness, we already live in an unfair world. There are inequities around the world that we witness day in, day out. And when we bring AI into the picture, what we really want to do is to ensure that we don't perpetuate or even worsen the inequalities that are existent in society. Instead, we want AI to play in helping ameliorate or alleviate the lack of inequality and increase fairness. The example of the CEO that I just mentioned is one of them. There are also other examples around facial recognition. It is technology that is currently rapidly being developed. But if you look at the just 2 years ago, you look at the accuracy rate for a typical Caucasian gentleman, male in gender, the accuracy rate was error up to 1%, so very, very accurate. But if you start looking at different races or different gender profiles or a combination of women, you can see that the accuracy rate starts falling from 7 to 12 to 30% error rates. So these are all a part of ensuring that there is fairness and an equality aspect to looking at the deployment of AI. The second piece around reliability and safety is really ensuring that we don't cause more harm in the world through the use of AI. And typically when we think about this, the examples that come to mind are, in the military, if we're using AI in the military, things like unmanned drones, or it's in the case of healthcare, if we are utilizing AI to predict who receives immediate healthcare versus someone who doesn't. Or even in the process of giving the healthcare treatment. And all of these are direct physical, potentials to harm. But it's even things that are well discussed and have been quite a bit out in the news, things like autonomous vehicles. How safe are they and just how reliable are they putting standards as well as norms in our system before any of these technologies are released into our human environment will be critical. The third piece around privacy and security. So this is not a new topic at all, and yet quarter after quarter, year on year, there seem to be additional examples of privacy breaches and security breaches. And I believe many of you will be familiar with the recent case with a large e-commerce group where actually was a both breach of security led to a breach of privacy, and millions of private data, individual data was compromised. There are also cases where it's not just a breach of security that causes privacy issues. One of the more sensationalized examples was around, again, an e-commerce company, not in this part of the world, that could actually predict very personal information about one of their users. So a user started getting recommendations around pregnancy and around motherhood products and services. And this was actually predicted and sent out to the individual before the person herself knew that she was pregnant. So think about, this was not a violation of security, but definitely a violation of privacy. And many such instances can be seen in various industries as we use AI for further personalization type of instances. The fourth one here is around inclusiveness. And when you think of inclusiveness, you can really think of multiple different communities of minorities that may come to mind. The one that we specifically want to call out is around disabilities, because AI really has the opportunity to provide added utility to people with disabilities, because simply AI enables you to perceive the world, as previously mentioned, sense the world in ways that human beings do, that you may not be able to if you have a certain disability. So that's important always right from the design stage for us to consider. And this is very much a part of our company's values and priorities as well. The latter two, transparency and accountability, respectively, cut across all four of these. And they are arguably really the most important. Transparency really means how well can we explain not just the algorithm, but the risks associated with this technology, and ensuring that there is interpretability as well as interpretability to the algorithms that we are deploying, which really basically means that the person or the stakeholder that is using it, do I understand the behavior of this algorithm? The last one on accountability is, again, absolutely important. And this is really about keeping the human in the loop, ensuring that there is accountability that goes beyond the AI technology. An example that I just wanted to put up was recently there was a Hong Kong tycoon in Hong Kong who was suing an investment company over millions of dollars lost over suggestions on investment that an algorithm made. So if these decisions were made by a machine, who is the one that is responsible? And this is one of the examples that have financial repercussions, but imagine how serious it could be if the repercussions were to life or to someone's safety or national security. So these are the principles. Those are the six that we espouse to live by and to work by. The piece that everybody wants to know is principles are great, but how do we bring them to reality? And this is just one of the approaches that we can share with you that Microsoft is taking. And in 2016, after having gone through these six principles, which are every day being enriched, we have moved on to really thinking about what does this mean in practice. And rather than staying at the level of speaking about values, we really come up with specific guidelines on human-AI interaction, on conversational AI. There's an AI fairness checklist that developed engineers need to go through. So there are really practical steps according to processes and technologies that you are looking at that you can follow through with. After practices, there is also a piece on tools, which you may or may not have had access to. So there are researchers at Microsoft who are working on developing tools that help understand as well as protect and control at the technology level of what the risks are. Just an example is a tool called FairLearn, which is a tool that you can place on top of your algorithm, and it will aid you identify blind spots and where potential biases in your algorithm could be. And the last piece, apologies, this keeps going the other way. Last piece, and again, extremely important, is the governance. So in any kind of responsible AI discussion, to put teeth into the discussion around values and principles, we need a governance system. And this view is really showing you what we have internally. Of course, there is a lot more we can do to work with the parties external to our organization to ensure it's reflected in policies and legislation. But internally, what we have, RAI stands for Responsible AI. We have an Office of Responsible AI that is mandated with a number of things, including being the custodian of a certain set of requirements that people need to follow through. Part of their mandate is also to deal with sensitive use cases that are escalated when sellers or engineers identify a certain use case in any industry that may be of risk to any of the principles we mentioned. This office follows through with the process of analyzing that and providing additional guidance. I have elaborated a little bit more in the video that you can find at the exhibition booth, but due to time's sake, I will not be going through these slides. Please feel free to ask questions or interact with me after to find out more. I will leave with you, however, 2 resources on our side. This time, it's really not about the technology, but really for you to empower yourself with the knowledge on responsible AI. On the left, you see here an executive masterclass that we have published called the AI Business School. It really consists of AI strategy, learning to develop a culture of innovation, as well as technology 101 on AI. But most importantly, there is a pillar around responsible AI that you can really take your own time through for learning. On the right-hand side, everything that I mentioned around the guidelines, around the tools, around extra thought leadership material is available in this Responsible AI resource trove. So we'll be happy to share this with you as well. And as my time comes to a close, I would just like to leave you with a quote from a certain Austrian poet, that really it is up to us to shape the future. And it is not just about the what of AI and the possibilities of AI, but really the how as we shape each of the organizations that we are leaders in. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it. We'll look forward to interacting with you further.